I am Dr. Renuka Thakore. I am Research Officer at University College of Estate Management and founder of Global Sustainable Futures Progress Through Partnership Network. I am delighted to present the book and talk about my chapter at the occasion of the book launch of Climate Adaptation, Accounts of Resilience, Self-Sufficiency and Systems Change, coinciding with the start of COP26. The book is edited by Arcbound Foundation, is structured in 3 parts and 17 chapters that provide a picture of where the world is heading and what can we do about it. This book takes an unflinching look at climate change, drawing upon the latest data to analyze what the next decades hold in store. With atmospheric carbon emissions at unprecedented levels and insufficient action being taken to prevent a rise of temperature about 2 degrees centigrade, we are not just looking at significant disturbance, but the possibility of societal collapse. For the first time, the magnitude of this challenge is faced head-on, with avenues to address it are presented in this book. Case studies and models from over 18 authors worldwide show ways to build adaptation and resilience and what zero emissions really mean. The book also provides a platform for those from diverse backgrounds whose unique experience and knowledge bring vital new perspectives. For those already feeling the impacts of climate change in the global south, to community leaders fighting to create mutual and natural alternatives, we get a chance to understand the nuances and possibilities of the task ahead. If you are looking to understand the concepts such as climate crisis, climate emergency, adapting to climate change, resilience, self-sufficiency, systems change, then this is the book I would refer to. The book is well-timed for the global UN Climate Summit in Glasgow, that is COP26, and will appeal to the extensive and growing leadership concerned about climate change. It follows in the wake of mounting publicity and literature covering climate adaptation, yet presents a unique stance on the issue. I would recommend every library should have at least 1 copy of this for the readers who can engage with climate change. We, the authors, include Dr. Morgan Phillips from UK, Dr. Jenny Steele from Canada, Fazila Mubarak from Kenya, Rodrigo Mori from Brazil, Isobel Thomas Horton from Glasgow, Carol Manetta from USA, Dr. Luisa Saradin from Brazil, Professor Robert Reid from UK, Jane Rediford from New Zealand, including myself, Dr. Renuka from UK. And we also have more authors: Karan Scott from Wales, Vitaly Ducrot from Spain, Olivia Copsey from UK, Dr. Esther Barinaga from Sweden, Dr. Anne Catherine Swag from Germany, Filippo Baza from Italy, Sri Raksha Mohan from USA, Dada Vedapranjinanda from UK, Stephen Gorlick from USA and UK, Dr. Ashit Kothari from India. We all have expertise, knowledge, and experience in areas ranging from oceanography and economics to managing sustainable ecological centers and leading on responses to climate disasters. All chapters are collated and edited by the ArcFound Foundation, a UK literacy charity based in Glasgow and Bristol. So all chapters here, again, are collated and edited by ArcFound Foundation. As part of the ArcFound Foundation environmental objectives, the fundamental aim of publishing this book was to make an incredible, important contribution and create a legacy to COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow. Two major gaps in environmental literature are addressed through this book. Firstly, the most focus is put on mitigation, preventing climate change, either from the top down or by augmenting individual behavior. Secondly, that there were very little coverage of accounts from people who would be most adversely impacted by climate change, that is, who are already being impacted, especially from global south. The exploration in these areas revealed that the most books rarely dwell into systemic change, at best merely touching upon it. The more we uncovered about climate change, the greater we realize how important it was for people and communities to be empowered in adapting to it and building resilience, moving towards wholly different socio-economic structures rather than laboring under the natural eternal GDP growth model and being reliant upon national and international entities who have consistently failed to take sufficient action. After extensive outreach to organizations, communities, and environmental leaders across the world, the ArcBound Foundation has been immensely successful in collating the content that address these gaps and issues. Many of the authors are from positions of disadvantage in comparison with the Northern Hemisphere. ArcBound was able to support these authors by sharing part of a royalty from sales of the book. Being a very small charity, ArcBound had almost no money and was reliant on voluntary input, as with many other projects they have undertaken. For this project, ArcBound experienced many barriers, as any small organizations would experience. Also, it should be noted that even for those committed to tackling climate change, this has been the case. This issue is important because it means that any environmental project by a small or community-rooted organization faces huge challenges, especially with respect to funding. At the same time, for any project, avenues with invariable refuse support because they cannot see the relevance of climate change on wider culture and wider society. In this situation, I'm very grateful, and I got this opportunity to volunteer and contribute to this book. I am very grateful to all the volunteers, and to name few, Tazim Bradier, Jim Dempsey, Steve McNaught, Emily Andrews, Ellie Donovan, Carolina Carvoja, and Gerard O'Hare for their contribution to make this book publish. So let me tell about the book. Part 1, it presents with an overview, where are we and where are we going? There are 3 chapters in this part. Chapter 1, the situation, an overview by Steve McCart, Dr. Mary Shaw, Dr. Margon Phillips, and Dr. Justin Stephen provides a background on climate change. But it is not a comprehensive overview. Rather, it shows the snapshots that offer a window into the size of the issue, the scale of the crisis, and the options of humanity faces over the coming decades. This chapter presents a wholly factual, broad account rather than favoring particular perspective. It is also important to bear in mind that the climate data is constantly being reviewed and updated, and models may change. The main message we get from this chapter is ocean warming, acidification, and deoxygenation, permafrost degradation, and the extinction of the species are the phenomena that are highly relevant to human societies and ecosystem integrity, but are effectively irreversible in century timescales. And another message we get, that is going through climate change, and if it wants to be successful, we require huge transformations in the way societies, economies, and everyday life operates. Having said that, we go to the chapter 2, and the chapter 2 is Oceans in Peril, the global state of the ocean, and authored by Dr. Jessica Geer, Amle Kole, and myself, Dr. Renuka Thakore. In this chapter, ocean heating phenomena is discussed. Year after year, oceans are getting hotter, and you will see those figures. And hotter oceans translate to more extreme storms, incessant droughts in some areas, and flooding in others. The ocean stored thermal energy is released and catastrophically in the form of a more intensive El Nino and contributes significantly to global temperatures. Also, there is a steepening decline of oxygen levels, already impacting multiple species of fish and apex species like dolphins and whales. The Bay of Bengal is one startling example. Increasing temperatures have changed currents and monsoon cycles at the same time as a buildup of archochemical and sewage levels, pushing this entire ecosystem towards ocean basin anoxia, effectively a dead zone. Of course, higher temperatures also mean higher sea levels. Since 1900, sea levels have increased on a global scale by about 19 centimeters. Sea level rise projections based on the IPCC's different scenarios show that they may be as high as 1 meter by 2100. The world's major cities are on the coast, so many are threatened by increased sea level. With a meter rise by 21st century, and you will see the figure here, about 40% of global population living in coastal zone is threatened. One example is New Orleans in USA, which has already affected by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. This was not a direct consequence of global warming per se, but rather a storm surge event, yet climate change is going to increase the ferocity and frequency of such similar events in the future. If we look beyond 21st century and to the risk of cascading tipping points being triggered, details of which are discussed in chapter 1, this could quite literally be the tip of the many more, would experience widespread flooding and total inundation. Engineering solutions can only go so far when the world is looking for a global average temperature rise of about 3 degrees. The sea level is irreversible, and that's the message we get here. We also discuss the consequences of overfishing and how it is compounded with nutrition pollution, eutrophication, entering through the blood-web interaction and the establishment of invasive species. And then we highlight a need for good governance to manage marine ecosystem and ocean management. Further down, we also suggest some specific strategies, that is increasing the number of marine protection areas and the strength of protection in existing area, a global ban on attractive practices, interesting practices, such as deep sea mining, bottom trawling, blast fishing, chemical fishing, factory fishing vessels, etc. Reduction of fish consumption, changing diets towards vegetable replacements, coastal restoration, mangrove plantation, reducing input of chemicals and pollutants from land sources, responsible tourism, etc. A global ban on single-use plastic, responsible for widespread ecosystem destruction and circulation of microplastic across the marine and terrestrial food chains. Robust activism. The ocean is notorious hard to monitor and prevent destructive activities, but organizations like Sea Shepherd, Greenpeace, and Take3 can help fill the gap, working in partnership with communities and governments. And finally, we close the chapter by presenting two notable strategies, which are ocean ion fertilization and enhancing ocean alkalinity. So as noted before, ocean takes up around a third of carbon emitted by human activities. Having a high capacity of sequential carbon, enhancing carbonic sequestration could be a way to mitigate climate change. Several techniques that have been proposed for this relate to ocean ion fertilization. If the ocean is supplied with the iron, then the growth of phytoplankton can be stimulated. Phytoplankton is at the base of the food chain, absorbing CO2 and converting it into organic matter. However, such a strategy could also have unaccepted impacts. Large-scale manipulations of the environment does not go always as planned. Secondly, enhancing ocean alkalinity is another way of controlling oceanic carbon dioxide. Alkalinity is the capacity of a solution to neutralize the acidity. In terms of enhancing ocean alkalinity, if calcium hydrocarbon or calcium oxide is added to the ocean and reacts with carbon dioxide, the end product can be calcium carbonate and CO2. This ends up reducing two molecules of carbon dioxide into one. Geoengineering of marine cloud brightening or seeding marine stratocumulus clouds can also help to enhance ocean alkalinity. In addition, it is possible for incoming solar radiation to be reflected by ship spraying seawater mists. In some cases, experiments are being carried out to look at adding calcium carbonate to the stratosphere. And nonetheless, as with the case of ocean ion fertilization, there can be unaccepted side impacts, and such large-scale strategies can often be reflective of a poor governance structure and little involvement or consent from local communities. As such, they should be regarded as option of last resort, and other methods that work more in harmony with natural processes and which prevent destructive anthropogenic practices being preferable. And so I will now leave you to explore further chapters of the book, enjoy reading, and spread the message of climate change and adaptation in your network. Yes, together we can make this happen. Thank you very much for listening to me.